Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hey, I'm DJ Ross. I'm in Mountain View, California.
Each week on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week, we've got SteamWorld Build, Need for Speed Unbound, and Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince.
Oh, quite a spread this week.
This week, we cover all the food groups.
Ah. What are the 5 food groups of gaming? What are the 5 food groups? Are there 5? Did I get that number correct?
5? No.
4?
Maybe?
4? 5? I don't know. If you eat a balanced diet, you make sure to fill out the food pyramid. Food pyramid is a myth, I believe. It's, we're all taught incorrectly.
Correct. I think that has been debunked. Yes, I think that was a piece of conspiracy, assembled by the dairy industry or whatever.
Yeah, it's like, what are they supposed to eat? 12 servings of grains or something every day? That seems like a lot.
There might be some government subsidies at work there.
Yeah. Well, before we can even get into the gaming food pyramid, it's been debunked, so seems pointless now.
The basic food groups of gaming are what? Gun, car,
gun, car. Yeah, you're right. Probably
Spaceship.
Farming. Spaceship.
Farming, yeah.
Spaceship's a good one.
Yeah.
Block puzzle.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And rhythm game. There we go. That's all of them.
That's it. I think we covered it. Every game is one of those 5.
Oh no, we forgot sword. You got to have a sword in there somewhere. I think that's everything. That's 6. I think. Gun, car, sword, farm, block, and dance. We'll call it.
Yeah.
So
well, now we have 6. How did we end up with 6?
Because I've got the sword. I think like the rhythm game. That's more of a recent entry, but I think that
isn't that puzzle there? Don't you think that fits under block?
Block? No, that's totally different. What are you talking about?
We're gonna have to do some work on this.
Yeah, I think I think it's in a good spot right now.
Sword and gun seem interchangeable. Maybe weapon is just one of the.
No, you got your sword genres, you got your gun genres. Sometimes they mix, which is very exciting. But I think those are 2 very separate things.
You do love a gun sword.
I do love a gun sword. It's very true.
Well, good. I feel like we're doing some big work on this episode. We're barely 3 minutes in.
Yeah. Wow. We just solved the gaming food pyramid. What's next? What else are we going to do?
We should pitch this to Jeff Keighley. This should
get
that.
Get out of here, that guy. Oh, hear about that guy.
The structure of the Game Awards next year should just be the 5 basic food groups.
That would be something. Yeah. Okay. So maybe that's a version of the Game Awards I can get behind. Top gun game. Top sword game. I think this is, maybe we're onto something. Maybe if we can just get Jeff Keighley on board with this, maybe I will watch the Game Awards. Until that happens, though, I'm just staying sealed up in my underground bunker.
Oh, yeah. Is there still room for like best YouTuber and stuff like that? Is that
No, that's not even a game. Get out of here.
Anyway,
yeah. Well, we did the gaming food pyramid. We fixed the Game Awards. Yeah, we're not even 5 minutes into this thing.
We could talk about the Drunktacular.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
Before we get too much further into this thing and completely lose the plot. The Drunktacular is coming. It is, from the point at which this episode comes out, it is just a week away. The clock is ticking and we need your help. We would love you to join us live on Friday, December 8th, around 9 p.m. Eastern Time. DJ and I will be live streaming our year-end wrap-up show where we're taking your calls and questions. We would love to have those calls and questions in advance, though, so that we can make sure that we're prepared and study and, check our sources and give you factual answers to all of your questions.
Or very carefully engineered non-factual answers.
Right, exactly.
You won't even be able to tell. It'll be very dangerous.
There's a bunch of different ways you can get in touch with us. What are some of those ways, DJ?
What are those ways? You can tweet at us, twitter.com/VGHangover. You can email contact@VGHangover.com. If you want to be like that one guy who likes to send emails, You can message it to us on Discord. But our favorite way for you to get in touch with us is you can call us on your phone at 682-999-VGH1 and record a little voicemail about anything you want. And not only will we play it on the show, we will then respond to it live. So that's very exciting. You will become a part of video game hangover history. Have your voice on as part of an episode. That's exciting.
I agree. It's exciting.
Something I've always wanted to do.
The fun never stops. 612 episodes in, and I'm still just thrilled every week I get to talk into this microphone.
Yeah, no, it's so exciting. You're missing out if you don't do this. So get on your telephone and call that number.
Awesome. We would love to hear from you. DJ and I could probably do a show without the calls and questions, but I think it would be much more entertaining if we had your help.
Oh, yeah. And it's going to be a very weird and meandering show if we don't have any questions when we sit down to record. But that could also be interesting. No, we don't want to encourage that. We want people to call in. We want people to send in your questions. So please do that.
We really could. We could spend an hour drinking and really just workshopping this basic food groups thing.
I mean, yes. No, but please do actually send in questions. Send in your own take on the video game food pyramid. Send in your own, category you'd like to see covered at the Video Game Awards. See, these are all amazing things you can send in. It doesn't even need to be a question. Did we establish that? It could just be your thoughts about games you played in 2023. That's exciting. We want to hear about that.
Absolutely.
It doesn't need to be gaming related. It could be your favorite... the best thing you ate at Jeff Keighley's house the last time you were over there. Want to keep it wide open.
Did Jeff Keighley eat food?
That sounds like something you can ask us if you send it in, and we will respond to that live on the air.
Friday, December 8th. Right.
No free answers before we even get started. Does Jeff Keighley eat food? If nobody sends that in, I might just do a write-in myself. Right.
What do you think Jeff Keighley's Taco Bell order is just by looking at him? If you had to guess.
Man, those are good questions.
Yeah. All right. Well, I got my calling question in, so I'm done.
Okay. Anyway, you have until the end of next Thursday, December the 7th, to get your questions into us. So we have enough time to prepare and, put them on the list. But, we're waiting. We love to hear from you. It's always a fun way to wrap up the year of podcasting. Did we mention there's a live stream? We're going to be recording live Friday at 9 p.m. next week. Mm-hmm. So that would also be fun if you would join us. You can get all the info and all that contact information again if you go to VGHangover.com/drunk. We're waiting to hear from you.
Operators are standing by.
Something like that, yeah.
We cut to our celebrity panel of people answering phones for us.
Yeah. Oh, who would be on that panel? I don't know. I'm not answering that one right now.
Tune in on Friday, December 8th to find out.
Yeah. We'll just keep cutting back to the panel shot.
What a tease.
Oh, man. It's going to be a good one. I can tell already.
So I'm happy post-Thanksgiving, happy post-Black Friday, Green Wednesday, all of the other sort of fake holidays that happened last week. Hope you survived.
Green Wednesday is a new one to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is the first year I've heard about Green Wednesday. Although I did hear that, I think before Cyber Monday was really a thing, people were, or some retailer, I don't know, some entrepreneur was trying to get it started for the Wednesday before Black Friday, and they wanted to call it White Wednesday. I was like, I don't know about that. I don't know if I would feel good about promoting White Wednesday. I think, Cyber Monday, I'm glad they landed on that one.
Right. And then we have our Giving Tuesday. Isn't there's something else, right? Isn't there a...
Well, there's Green Wednesday. Now there's
Green Wednesday. Maybe that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah. That is, that's fairly new. That's all. The potheads need more than just 420. You need a little something you can spread around the calendar in the day before everybody gets together with their family. Seems like a good idea. So,
sure.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just starting off the holiday crawl here. I did very little shopping for Thanksgiving, Black Friday chaos. I abstained this year more than anything. It was nice. It was fun not to participate in the retail chaos.
Yeah, well, good for you.
Yeah.
as usual, I just, locked myself in the aforementioned underground bunker, and it was all good. Had a very low-key Black Friday.
Excellent. Low-key is good. I'm a fan of low-key.
Yeah. I like looking at the weird online deals more than, like, actually partaking in them.
Yeah.
I just like to go to, insert giant online Monopoly shopping site here and just see what deals they posted up for Black Friday. And I was like, oh, look at all this weird stuff. I think they recommended a barcode scanner to me this year.
Oh.
I was like, oh, think of all the barcodes I've been missing out on scanning because I don't have a barcode scanner. How can I resist?
Does your phone not do that? Is that not an option on?
I guess I could, but it's like one of those, they use the checkout aisle, one of the actual little like laser gun thing.
Oh,
I don't know what the benefit of having one of those versus your phone is, but who knows? Apparently, I needed one because they were trying to sell me on it real hard.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. That aforementioned retail site has my number as well. They've obviously logged everything that I've ever looked up ever in the past year. So I was getting all kinds of alerts about, hey, weren't you looking for headphones at one point? Look at this deal on headphones.
Right.
And yes, there was a time in my life where 50% off a really nice pair of Bluetooth headphones probably would have rang that bell, I think. But I resisted this year. I'm like, no, I'm good. I think I'm okay. Where would I wear the headphones? Do I need more headphones?
I can always use another pair of headphones.
Yeah. I got my little earbuds.
I don't even know.
I think I'm okay.
I'm just at the point where I have everything. I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
I have all the stuff. Yes. Yep. I used to have a whole list of video games I wanted a Black Friday deal on, and now I'm like, no, I have all the games. I have every game.
Yeah, you're set.
And they all go on sale anyways. If you wait around long enough, there's always like a Mother's Day Nintendo Switch sale or whatever. So
love that Mother's Day eShop sale.
New Year's, Green Wednesday, Valentine's Day, all the fake holidays.
Green Wednesday, yeah. All the Luigi games are half off.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, it's fine. I don't need to participate in the insanity. I'm good.
Yeah. Stay away from the mall. Avoid the crowds.
I agree. Now let's talk about some video games we bought.
Yeah, well, I thought we didn't buy anything. We just went over this.
We acquired.
I can tell you about a video game that I bought a year ago. I'm getting around to playing just because that's how things work now.
Sure, that's very real. I can identify with that. Yeah,
so I've been playing a lot of driving games this year. I don't know why, really. I think it was the subconscious Ridge Racer thing. We talked about F-Zero a lot for some reason. Oh, because the F-Zero 99 came out, so I ended up playing a bunch of that. And I've had this Need for Speed Unbound sitting on my PlayStation for like a year. This came out last year. But it was very highly... I don't know if it reviewed great, but seemed to be very well regarded by some of the people I know who are playing it. So I thought, well, it's been a while since I played a racing game. I like a good, driving game once in a while. Maybe I'll check this thing out. And for whatever reason, I just got into it this week, and it's a lot of fun. Actually, it turns out that it's pretty good. Just as just to put it out there, I don't think I've ever played a Need for Speed game. So I don't think, I'm not the person to ask about, how does this compare to the previous ones? I don't really know what the through line that connects all the previous Need for Speed games is. I think a lot of them you were escaping from the police, I think.
Yes. Yeah. That's sort of my association with the Need for Speed games is there was a few iterations of them where it was like a cops and robbers kind of thing. It was you trying to outrun just the most souped up cop cars you'd ever seen in your life.
Yeah, like Hot Pursuit or something. That sounds like a Need for Speed game.
I'm not sure if that is still kind of the hallmark of the series. It's been a little while since I've participated as well.
Well, not having played any of the previous ones, I'm having a hard time nailing down what the exact hook with this installment is. Like the cop chase stuff is still in there. You're playing as sort of a underground street racer. I feel like that has always been a thing. If you just asked me what this series was about, I'd just be like, oh, it's kind of EA's take on Fast and the Furious. But same sort of deal on this. You're just working at an auto garage. At night, you go out and do some illegal street racing. Sometimes you have to escape from the cops. What really sticks out to me about this specific one, though, is more of like an aesthetic thing, where you still have all these really gorgeous like cars. They look very realistic, which is something that's always really impressed me about driving games. But all of the characters in it are sort of these, like, not really anime characters. They look very sort of like human, I guess. Like real people, but they're all sort of toon shaded.
Oh.
So, like, you'll be driving these cars around, and then at the end of the race, it zooms in on the driver's seat or whatever, and there's just like a cartoon person sitting there, which is kind of interesting. But it's very cool. There's a bunch of cool character customization you can do. Sort of in line with this, a lot of the effects as you're driving, they have this sort of like hand-drawn, not really, like the sort of long exposure, like light painting, that sort of effect. Like whenever your car is peeling out, instead of very realistic smoke from the tires, it's kind of like a toon shaded look.
Oh, interesting.
And then there are all these like sparks and things that are very like just flat shaded and not very realistic looking, but it gives it kind of this like a little bit of a street art vibe. It's pretty interesting. It's pretty unique. I don't remember any other games really doing this.
I'm surprised that you're saying that you can sort of like see the character, because I don't think I've ever played a Need for Speed game where you can actually see your driver.
In this one, unless it's at the end of the race.
The fact that they've landed on a like an art style and that you can sort of change their outfits and stuff like that is surprising to me. It was really just all about kind of cars and car customization in the past. So.
Don't worry, that's all in here too. But there are a lot of scenes. There's like a whole story mode in this where you spend a lot of time. I mean, you don't spend a lot of time, but there are cut scenes where you see the character outside of the car a bunch of times. And like in the garage between races, your character's just, I guess, posing next to their ride before you go out to the next race. So it's like, okay, yeah, I guess you do want to have a nice custom character who's, wearing the latest EA fashions and all that stuff. You're never, you never actually get out of the car. I mean, not up to this point anyway, and walk around. But, if you rotate the camera around, you can see your driver hanging out. It's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Man, has it been a long time since I played an EA game, though. I forgot just how awful, like, all of the writing and just everything sort of personality-wise about these games are. I think my last exposure to this was probably Burnout Paradise.
Oh, wow.
And I vowed that I would never again play a game with DJ Atomica as the narrator. Because I just like, oh my god, who is this for? Who enjoys this? Just an obnoxious guy yelling at you and trying to sound cool the entire time you're trying to play this racing game.
And does that still exist in Need for Speed?
DJ Atomica is not in here, but... Man, is it not just, just incredibly cringy dialogue of people trying to, the characters trying to sound very cool and, use current slang and everything, but it's like the first Life is Strange, where it's like, oh man, this was written by a 40-year-old male. So very quickly just turned all the dialogue off, which is, I feel like now it's just me racing in silence, which is also weird. But it's preferable to just having having to listen to all the other racers trying to trash talk me the entire race.
Yeah.
Plus, I can put on my own soundtrack, which is good. Not quite as integrated as previous racing games that I played. Like not even the Burnout Paradise, because remember you could like load up your own playlist or whatever in that game.
Oh, yeah. On the PS3, you could put in like a thumb drive with your own music on it or something, right?
Yeah. What happened to that? That was a good feature. And now it's just, you got to listen to the EA radio unless you mute it entirely, which I did. And now I just have my computer playing stuff in the background, but it's fine.
Can't you use, on the PlayStation, can't you use Spotify to stream music into it?
You can, and I was like, oh, I should do that. I hadn't actually set that up on my PS5 at this point.
Oh, gotcha.
But then, like, my PS5 and just my computer run through the same sound system, so I was like, I'll just have it running on my computer. That's probably easier.
Yeah.
That makes more sense. You don't have to set up a playlist or anything.
It's practically the same thing.
Yeah. But, like, that's all I want out of a driving game is, like, cool driving missions, do some races, put on whatever music you want, and you don't have to listen to some EA DJ just yelling at you.
Right.
So, it takes a little bit of customization to get to this point. But once I got it set up, it's a lot of fun. It's kind of like an RPG this time. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the previous ones are like this. I don't know. But you just start out with kind of a junker car. I mean, you don't immediately start out with a junker car, but you just sort of have to work your way up and win races to earn money so you can buy upgrades and eventually get fancier cars. You can participate in more difficult races, and it's just that's sort of the loop. It feels a little grindy, which I'm not sure what to make of. Maybe that's just how it's tuned. But, like, in order to get into the races, they have the big rewards at the end. You have to, put down a buy-in, which is a few $1,000s every time. And then there are all these other things you can do. Like, you can start a side bet with one of the other racers. Like, you can just bet that you'll finish ahead of them, and that's additional money. So by the time you get to the end of the race, it feels like when I was playing Armored Core, where you get to the end, you get your big paycheck, and it's very exciting. And then they're like, oh, okay, so here's here's the buy-in, we subtract that, here's the side bet you do. You don't have to pay for, like, gasoline or car maintenance or anything, but it does kind of, it's a little deflating to, like, actually on the results screen see the big payout number in green, and then it's like, oh, what are these little red subtractions out of the prize money? That's kind of disappointing.
You gotta spend money to make money, TJ.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, my point is that it feels like you're earning money a little slower than you could potentially be. And that's not even including, like, if you finish a race in last place, you actually lose money because you don't make any money off the race. And then you're still short the whatever you paid to get into the race in the first place.
Oh, you still have expenses, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe you can just, like, race yourself into a hole and then never recover. But it hasn't been my experience. I've been doing all right, which is probably good. And so it may be a little grindy, but I don't mind it too much because at the end of the day, you're just, doing races, which is fun. Even if I haven't completely failed a race yet, but a lot of the time I will come in like somewhere in the middle of the pack and just go, oh, I think I could do better than that. So I just hit the retry button. And it's not like a huge disappointment that I have to do the race over, because that's sort of what I'm here to do in the first place. But
yeah. You don't have to pay to re-race or anything like that.
No, you get a limited number of times you can just, like, straight up retry the race without having to pay an extra fee. So I've just been doing that, which is fine.
Yeah.
So the point is, maybe it's a little grindy, but all the grind is just playing a racing video game. So I'm like, that's pretty good.
Cool. So how did you land on this? I mean, you've had a bit of an itch for racing games. I know that. Why this one specifically?
I don't know. It just came out last year, and people seem really excited about it. Like a lot of people I saw talking about the character customization and just the way the approach they've taken to having the cartoon characters in here, especially. So kind of caught my eye, and I was like, well, it's been a while since I played a racing game like this, so yeah, maybe this is the one. It's actually developed by Criterion, who's the Burnout studio.
Oh, wow.
I don't know who produced a lot of the other games, but it feels slightly familiar just because of that. It has a lot of little, like, side objectives like you would find in Burnout Paradise. Like, you can smash through billboards and find hidden items around the environment.
Yeah. Does it have, like, glorious slow-motion car wrecks?
There's not a lot of that. There's not, like... You're sort of encouraged to, there are takedowns, right? You can, like, take down another car, or take down a cop, which gives you a lot of extra points. But it doesn't dwell on it quite as much as the Burnout games did. So I think if you wreck during a race, it'll slow down for a split second or so, but then it makes a point of getting you back into the race right away.
Oh, that's probably good too, though.
Yeah, yeah. The cop thing is kind of interesting in that each day is divided up into like a daytime and a nighttime section. So you do races during the day, and then as you're doing these races, you start to build up your heat level with the cops, which is just like based on how dangerously you've been driving, or if you've like just sideswiped any cop cars or whatever. And then your heat carries over into the nighttime races, which I guess are just all illegal. I forget how it works exactly. I think some of the daytime races are just like these, sanctioned races, but then at night it's like the real underground stuff, and the cops are out looking for you. So, your heat builds up faster doing that. And it's basically just like in Grand Theft Auto, where the higher your heat level is, the more aggressive the cops are, and the more determined they are to search you out. And if they catch you, you just lose all the cash you've accumulated for that 24-hour period. Like at the end of the day, if you make it through all the races and you go back to the garage, you just bank everything you've earned that day. And I was thinking that like, because of this heat system, you would earn more money based on how high your heat level is or something like that, but that doesn't seem to be the case, which seems a little weird to me. So it's like you're doing more races and you're earning more money just by virtue of doing more races, but there's not really incentive to build up your heat level and sort of live more dangerously, because it doesn't seem to make you any more money. It just makes it harder for you to get back safely to the garage and actually keep the money. So that feels a little weird to me. That feels like sort of a missed opportunity. I don't know if that changes later. I'm still fairly early in the game, so I'm not really sure. It feels like the systems are pretty well established at this point, though. So that's kind of weird. I was thinking like, I would kind of like if there was that interesting balance of, sort of a risk-reward right. kind of thing to play around with. But no, it's mostly just, do races, avoid the cops the best you can, and that's the loop, essentially. But at the end of the day, it's still pretty
upgrade
fun
your car,
game.
presumably buy a cool new jacket.
Yes, buy a new jacket every once in a while.
Yeah. Upgrade
your car. Eventually get that Lamborghini or whatever. But it's cool. They're not making any new Ridge Racer games that I'm aware of, so this will have to do for the time being.
Are there licensed cars in this, or is it all video game cars?
No, I think they're all licensed cars. Right now I'm driving some kind of like Mazda. Just a little thing. But they stick in little random missions where you either have to like deliver a vehicle or something like that, so that it sort of gives you a preview of higher end cars. And what was the thing I was just driving? I think it was a Lamborghini, actually. Ooh. And I was like, "Oh, this one's good. I want one of these."
I'm keeping this.
The end of the mission, it's like, "Okay, this is now unlocked for purchase," and it's like, "Great, I'm gonna go buy it," and it costs like $400,000. So I'm like, "Oh, well, maybe not today." Maybe not this month even, but someday I will get this thing. I'm just going to be waiting in the showroom until then.
That's interesting that it's grindy. I mean, I certainly remember stuff in what you call it, Burnout Paradise being kind of gated by money you had available, but never really ever thinking that it was grindy in like an RPG kind of way. I just feel like there's a lot of like capitalism limitations to your progress in what you're describing.
Yeah, it's probably not as bad as I made it sound. I think my issue with it is I keep getting distracted because there are all these little side things to do. There's like, as you're driving around, there'll be a little highlighted spot on the mini map, which is usually like a collectible or a billboard or something, which I really should just be ignoring because they don't really have a lot of benefit to like seeking out. And I should just be racing and earning more money, and then I can have a nicer car. But like I said, I'm still sort of in the early hours of the game, and I expect it to, you can't immediately be in the Lamborghini because then you're just done.
Right.
So you got to spend some time in the Mazda for a little bit. Just right. You'll appreciate the Lamborghini more when you get there.
That's your origin story.
Yes, it started with this little Mazda.
Right.
And you just work your way up. Yeah.
Well, cool. Are you playing just the campaign, or have you ventured online against other racers?
No, I'm just doing the campaign. I don't know if I will do the online thing, partially because I just don't really have interest in playing against people online. And also I've heard that your progress and like your whole garage doesn't carry over from the campaign to online. So I'm like, oh, I just had to do all this over again. That's
You're back in the Mazda.
Yeah, it's back in the Mazda. So, I don't know. Maybe I will venture in there just to see what the state of online racing is these days, but it's not high on my priority list. I'm completely satisfied with just driving around.
I would be surprised if you said oh yeah, I'm playing all online.
Yeah, well, who knows? Who knows? Yeah. Maybe I'm missing my calling. I did play a lot of Mario Kart online back in the day.
Again, if I forget which racing game it was, I believe it was a previous Need for Speed. There was almost always one of these on the PlayStation portable devices. So I know there was one on the PSP, more than one on the PSP, and there was a really good one on the Vita that I played a lot. There was one at the PS4 launch that I think still had that cops and robbers thing going on. And that was like a seamless online-offline kind of situation where like other players would like zoom up next to you during an offline race to like, like challenge you and stuff like that. So you could like, combine, your offline pursuits, your campaign pursuits, with actually racing against other racers. And I kind of like that at the time. I thought that was kind of a cool feature, but I could see that certainly having its limitations as well.
It would be nice if it worked like that. And I've played games like that where, you would just be driving around and you'd see other people who were other players, which was cool. But, they would, drive up and try and challenge you. And whenever that would happen, I'd just be like, no, leave me alone. Like, I don't even know who you are. Go away. I'm just trying to do my thing. So I don't know if I would actually engage with it in that way.
Yeah.
I do like seeing the random other players driving around once in a while. That's kind of fun. But I don't think that's how this is set up. Like, there is sort of an option to be online while you're doing the campaign. But at this point, and I don't know if just because I'm playing this a year late, I haven't really seen anybody else driving around. But
you're one of 6 worldwide players on Need for Speed Unbound.
Yeah, man, you got to watch out for anybody still playing it a year later. They're probably just a nightmare to deal with.
Well, cool. I don't think I've had the itch for a racing game for a long time. I mean, Mario Kart has sort of satisfied that. I think I mentioned a few weeks ago that there was a period where I was very into racing games. That has not been the case for quite a few years at this point.
Yeah. I was going to say, I know you're a big Burnout Paradise fan.
Yeah.
You might be into
Burnout
this.
in general. I think that
Burnout
series was a ton of fun. I distinctly recall, was it Burnout Revenge?
Yeah. I really liked Burnout 3, and I think Revenge was 4. Didn't care for Paradise as much, but I think what I liked about those previous ones is the races were much more sort of like bespoke races, whereas in Paradise it just felt like you're always just driving, go from the stadium to the waterfront. Okay, now go back to the stadium, and it was just the same 3 or 4 races over and over again.
Sure.
So it doesn't feel like that in Need for Speed Unbound so far. I also feel like the map is a little more interesting, so that might help.
The crashy aspects of Revenge, I think, were the ones that was the thing that really kind of kept me at it, because it was always the thing where you could. I think the Revenge component was like somebody else would sideswipe you in a race, and then you had to find them during the course of a race and like exact your revenge kind of thing. So you could ram them or sideswipe them, and you could do like aftertouch things. So as your car was rolling, you could steer it in the direction of their car rolling across the highway and hit them again and stuff like that. So there was this whole like secondary slow-mo challenge that always looked awesome. And then you could play back the tape. You could watch the crash in the race again. And so, it was very sort of glorious in its destruction. I thought was kind of fun. And I distinctly recall it had to be on the original Xbox. Sarah and I like passing the controller back and forth and challenging each other to get high scores. And it was very arcadey in that way. So
there was like that whole crash mode in those. I think. It was fun.
Those were super fun, and I don't know if that kind of thing exists in modern racing games.
I don't know. I'm guessing it doesn't really. I do kind of miss the takedown thing. Now that you mention it, there are definitely points during some of these races where I'm just like, oh, if I could just nudge this guy into a wall or something, that would make this much easier. But it's not really designed for you to do that. Like, you can do it. It's possible. But they're not really expecting you to.
Right. What Need for Speed really needs is a blue shell.
I've thought that exact thing, because I was doing this race yesterday, and I'm just like, okay, I've been in second place for a long time now. Where is the first place car? It's just like one of those situations where you're like, did we start? Like, we all started on the same line, right? How is this guy so far ahead? I need a blue shell.
Yep.
And then there's just no blue shell. So
there is a fix for this. Yeah.
So I was trained, I was thinking to myself, all the Ridge Racer I played trained me to think like, I just got to practice and get better. But I think the answer to it in this is you just got to go back to the garage and buy fancier parts for your car, and you'll be faster. And that's how cars work.
Right. Yeah. And hope the person in first place is not also doing the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a little of that going on. Like, I think there's a little, some of that rubber banding happening, but
sure.
It hasn't been extremely obnoxious up to this point.
Well, cool. This sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's good. It's nice, like kind of just a low pressure thing. There's not, there's like a whole campaign thing, but I'm really just completely ignoring the story at this point. It's just like, I wish there were more races per day, because I find myself just doing 2 or 3. I'll skip over the ones that I'm not interested in. Like, there are a lot of events that are just like, how long can you drift around a corner? I'm like, I don't need to do that. So it feels like I'm going back to the garage to turn the day over pretty frequently. But, it's the rest of the time it's pretty fun. I'm just driving around the city, checking out my cool car and all that stuff. That's good.
Nice. Well, cool.
Yeah. Anyway, what games did you not buy on Black Friday?
I've been playing SteamWorld Build, which I did not buy because the developers were kind enough to share an advance download of the game with me. So this comes out Friday, December 1st. That's this Friday, the day after this episode hits your ears. And yeah, it's been very cool to have a peek at this game ahead of its release date. I'm a big fan of the SteamWorld games. I don't think I've found one I haven't liked yet in some way or another. The SteamWorld has proven to be kind of this surprisingly resilient skin you can put over a bunch of other different genres. And the devs have seemed to have a really good time in trying to sort of like steampunk robot ties different things, like, collectible card games or city building games, or what was the other one? Or a tower defense game was the first one.
Was that what the last one they did was the card game? I've lost track at this point.
That was Quest. Yeah, it was a card-based game.
Okay.
Yeah. And thus beginning my sort of obsession with collectible card deck building video games. I went real hard on that for like a year and a half. I still have a bit of it with Inscription and Slay the Spire. Seem surprisingly hard to put down. So I had never really played a collectible card building, deck building kind of game prior to SteamWorld Quest, and that was the one that really got me, no pun intended, digging into others.
Yeah.
So the newest iteration of the SteamWorld games is SteamWorld Build. It's a city builder. It's real hard for me to sort of find other points of reference for this, because I think similar to like the deck building games, I've not really played a lot of city builder games. So I think kind of the obvious stuff is things like Anno or SimCity, and that's all I really have.
Anno getting a shout out on the show here. That's incredible.
Is that? That was the first one I thought of. Is that not everybody else's reference when it comes to city building games?
I don't know. It's like one of those games that I always see, but I never actually. I don't know anybody who plays those.
Yeah. I remember there being a thing. Those games have been around for a little while, right?
Yeah, somebody's playing them because they keep making them.
Yeah. What do you think of when you think of city builder games?
Oh, I think of SimCity.
Right, or SimCity.
No, I not Civilization. That's like a different thing.
Is that a different thing? Because I thought that was a city builder.
No, that's like, one of those empire building sort of conquest games, like the 4X stuff. But no, SimCity, I think that's the main one. Now I would throw in like city skylines, but that's very much trying to be SimCity. It's more like, you're building the city and kind of designing it, but then you're also thinking about like infrastructure and budgets and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think SteamWorld Build has a very similar architecture. You have the option to pick 5 different sort of environments. All of them are kind of desertscapes in some way or another. I picked one that looks a little bit like a Vegas, like a rundown Vegas strip kind of thing with like buzzing, like flickering neon signs and things like that. Some of them are like a valley with 2 mountains, and you have some architecture in the way, some geography in the way that you have to build around. So some slightly different sort of levels of difficulty depending on what kind of area you pick. But for the most part, you start off with a couple of humble structures and trying to sort of build up the number of robot workers you have in your little town, your little burgeoning town. So you build them housing, you build them factories to work in that will, knock down trees and turn them into boards that you can use for resources to build new houses. Everything has sort of a satisfaction level to it. So the robots need access to the level 1 robots. The workers need access to a general store and need access to adequate housing. So as long as they have that, you have little smiley faces above all of their little houses, and they're sort of they're stumping for you. They're trying to advocate to get more robots to move to the town. So you build more houses, you build more factories, you build more general stores. Eventually, you can upgrade some of your workers to engineers, and the engineers will do bigger projects and allow you to put in longer roads that can allow you to sort of sprawl out a little further in your valley. But they have their own requirements. They need a saloon available, and they need other things. Robots run on steam, so you do have to find resources for water in the desert as well, and you need to dedicate robots to that. So you're doing a lot of work, like allocating workers to generating resources that you can then use to entice more workers to come. You sell off your excess resources. You use some of them to build new houses and build new buildings and factories and things like that. And you lather, rinse, repeat from there.
That actually sounds, it does sound more like Civilization or something like that, where you have almost tech trees and requirements for building new, more advanced units, which is not really what you do in SimCity.
Interesting. Okay. It is. I think the thing that is most surprising to me about playing Build is that it's more about kind of worker satisfaction than it is about like building sort of sustainable city grids. like there's no like concessions here to like the weather or bus routes or anything like that. You're really just trying to sort of meet the standard of living for each of the working classes. Those are usually sort of city resources. So you're reallocating boards and water and things like that to build new buildings and new houses and new factories and new stores or a saloon or things like that to kind of keep people engaged and get more people to move to your city. So you're more about like worker engagement and worker retention than about city building. The buildings are just husks. It's when you zoom in and you sort of see the little robots kind of running down the street and going in and out of the doors and stuff like that. That's the loop you really want to keep sort of encouraging.
Well, that sounds similar to SimCity, I guess.
Does it?
When that you would have like a population satisfaction level. It's been a long time since I played a SimCity game, so I don't know how much they've changed since like the 90s. But I was always worried about, is the population happy? Do people want to move to my city? Am I balancing the budget correctly? Which was, never the case. It feels like, the worker satisfaction seems like a similar sort of element.
Metric, yeah.
Yeah.
So there is a secondary challenge that you have presented to you as you get a little further into the run here, is that you find an abandoned mine. And you can go into the mines below and, like SteamWorld Dig in the past, chip away at the walls and allocate resources to have diggers and engineers and medics and things like that to explore these underground mines. And you find tons of resources. You find tools that are kind of pivotal to the plot of the thing. The hook, the overall hook here is that your planet is dying and you need to find a way to get off of it. So you're trying to sort of like exploit all your resources and build essentially a version of a civilization that can build a ship or a rocket or some device that will allow you to get off planet and go someplace where there's more resources. And the keys to that are underground. You have to continue digging and buy new tools and upgrade your workers. Workers will get hurt, so you have to have medics down there. There's creepy crawlies. There's giant bugs that will come out of the walls and try to eat your robots, so you have to have little army guys who will defend. So the underground component, which is procedurally generated and different all the time for each playthrough, is a little bit more of an RTS where you have to have kind of people pointed in the right direction. You click on tiles that you want folks to excavate, and little robots run over and start chipping away at the walls and stuff like that. So you're trying to sort of build pathways through these mines to find more resources. The bugs will come, and you have to have robots who are going to defend your workers and shoot the little bugs and stuff like that. And all of that requires more resources and more reallocation. Well, meanwhile, civilization is marching on in the city above, and you do have to like switch between what happens below and what happens above, and manage kind of both of these kind of burgeoning empires simultaneously.
Well, that's cool. I was thinking, like, is this civilization? I don't know. It sounds like a very clever way to integrate some of the. I mean, it's not quite SteamWorld Dig, but it feels very familiar. So it's an interesting way to mix that back in. Yeah.
Interestingly, as Dig, where you, on the surface in SteamWorld Dig and SteamWorld Dig 2, there were, there was a general store and there was a saloon and things like that, and little people that you could talk to and who would give you help and give you tools. And then you would go down and you would mine some more and you'd dig for water and bugs would come and you'd find some gems and you'd collect enough gems to go up and sell and make more money to buy more tools, etc.
But are you controlling your actual guys in this? Because it sounds more like you're just sending a squad to do stuff.
Yeah, not on the surface. You're not. All of that is sort of happening on kind of a scripted timetable. There's sort of there's a clock that counts down between the train arriving in town. And the train is when you want to have resources done and kind of the rent paid and et cetera, et cetera. So that is your ticking clock above ground. Below ground,
the train. Right? Where does the train come from?
There's a train station. I don't know where it comes from.
But like, what is the significance of the train appearing? Are you loading all your funds onto the train, or?
It brings you new technology. So every time the train arrives, it gives you the option of different perks and upgrades that you can buy that will make workers work harder, or you could build things faster, or et cetera, et cetera. And you can sell off all of your excess resources at that point as well. So when the train arrives, there's buyers who will take any boards you're not using, any water you're not consuming, et cetera, et cetera. So it's an opportunity to make money, and it's an opportunity to bring new technology to the city.
Interesting. Okay.
So, and that happens kind of on a 3 to 5 minute time loop. There's always this little animation in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen of 3 minutes until the train comes, 2 minutes until the train comes. So you're trying to sort of like wrap up all of your business and make sure you're in a good place to be able to kind of not really negotiate, but kind of make some choices, important choices for your next 3 minutes or 5 minutes of gameplay.
That feels so frequent.
It is a little frequent. It's a little more passive than maybe I'm letting it sound like. Initially, you don't have to stress over it too much because you're really just using your resources to get your town up and going. So you don't have a lot left to sell, left over to sell. You don't have a lot of money to buy. But as you get further in, you're really kind of limited in what you can do until you start buying some of those perks and some of those advantages that allow you to work faster and produce faster and et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
They're just little modifiers that allow the game to be a little kind of more consumable. But below surface, you do have to kind of manage it pretty closely. And make sure that you're kind of setting like I said, workers in the right direction by clicking on the blocks you want them to explore and the paths you want them to go down, the mines you want them to go down, and making sure they have enough resources, that they have bunks to sleep in and medics to take care of them when they get hurt. So you're really kind of micromanaging all of those details, and even to the point where you're pointing them in the right direction of where they should go and explore. Life on the surface just kind of goes on its scripts below. They're really kind of waiting for you to guide them. So it kind of flexes. It feels like it flexes kind of two different muscles.
Interesting. Yeah, that sounds pretty different than sort of like what I was expecting when you said this was a city builder.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very much sort of the SteamWorld approach to a city builder. All of this notwithstanding, it does feel very approachable. And I think that is sort of SteamWorld's gift to some of these genres, is it does kind of break it down into a lot of its kind of individual components. It does streamline some of the things that in previous games have felt like tedious. Like I said, I've not played a lot of city builder games, but it feels surprisingly efficient. It has a really good tutorial. I think it does a really nice job of kind of introducing you to the tools. It prompts you periodically for if you feel like you're kind of spinning your wheels and don't quite know what to do next. You'll get occasional little pop-ups or guidance from the little in-game characters who will encourage you to do more stuff. And you're always looking at kind of people ratings and stuff like that. You have a tool that's a little like a mouse arrow that you can basically point to anything on the map and click on it, and it will tell you kind of its current status, its satisfaction, kind of what it needs next for its upgrade, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're not sure what to do, as I was at a couple points, I just turn on the pointer and just start clicking on things and look for things that I can kind of interact with, or things that are waiting to be upgraded, or look for sad faces because it means there's workers who don't have their needs met. And maybe that will steer my next couple of decisions. So it feels very easy to understand for somebody who's not really wrapped their brain around a lot of these more complex systems in some of these games like this. Yeah.
It definitely sounds much more approachable than something like SimCity, which
sure.
I don't know how much better those have gotten, but it did feel like you needed some understanding of like how to manage a city budget to be really successful in those.
The only experience I have in my past was in college. I was in college in the 90s, was playing a SimCity game for a civics course. And it was really a lot of like you kind of balancing the budget and how much to allocate to roads and taking out the trash and things like that. And
talk with your advisors and all that.
Right. And that is my memory of a city building game, which is probably why I've not played one in so many years.
Yes. I was like, I just want to build a cool city. I don't want to have to worry about all of this, but that's what they wanted me to do.
And that option is here at SteamWorld Build. There is some minutiae you can dig into if you want to, but a lot of that kind of happens on its own scripts. You can zoom in and out and fly around your city. And as you zoom in, you kind of see life at the street level. And like I said, the little robot zooming around and workers going and little tree crawlers like pulling down trees and turning them into logs and stuff. So all of that is really neat to kind of see. You can zoom back and sort of see your sprawling empire and see how it's all connected with the highways that you built and stuff. And it feels very cool. And I think it's got enough kind of little reward systems built into it to kind of keep me engaged and kind of enthralled in its resources and its little loops of gameplay. So yeah, it's cool. I'm conditioned to like SteamWorld games. I started this review by saying I don't think they've made a bad one. That trend continues. I think this is super entertaining. I've had a really good time with this. I don't know. I think I like their worldview. I think that these devs have kind of found a unique way to like take some genre and put their own particular spin on it. There's not really a direct connection. You're not like continuing a story. There's no like recurring characters or anything like that, but to kind of put it all in this world, like there's sound effects, there's music cues, there's things like that I recognize from previous games that carry into the SteamWorld Build world, and it all just feels kind of cozy and familiar. And I kind of dig that about where we're at with SteamWorld at this point.
That's cool. I do really like. I've never really gotten into them as much as you have, but I do really like that. You know, they did the RTS game, which sounded like you're saying, just a more
Heist,
approachable RTS.
Heist is great.
Yeah. Which is like, it's very interesting because there are all these genres where I'm like, well, I wouldn't play an RTS, I wouldn't play a city builder, but maybe I would play this one. Who knows?
Yeah.
I like there are a bunch of city building games that have come out that have just been about placing buildings around without all the economy aspects and all that. So I'm curious to try one of those out, but it feels like this could be sort of an interesting step in between just full sandbox mode and sort of the more hardcore simulation games.
Yes. Yeah. It really doesn't sort of feel like it hits either of those extremes. I think if you like kind of the hardcore civics side of a city builder, this probably won't scratch that itch for you. And if you want it to just be Animal Crossing, right, where you're sort of building a city and have fun neighbors to talk to, this isn't that either. It's very much something that kind of like lives somewhere between those two extremes, I think, which is cool. Which is there's certainly a market for that and a player for that. I think I'm the player for that. So yeah, it's sort of an interesting approach to a genre that has felt kind of impenetrable to me in the past.
Cool. What is the next impenetrable genre that they should tackle next? Is it what is it?
Oh, well, we know they're making a first-person shooter.
Are they? Do we actually know that?
That is confirmed. Yes, it has been announced.
Oh, really? I mean, you can play a first-person shooter. That's fine.
Sure. I'm intrigued. There's got to be a SteamWorld take on it, right? So
yeah,
I'm curious to see what they do with it.
I wonder if that'll be like, the first-person shooter for people who would not play a first-person shooter.
Right.
Until now.
Yeah. I feel like it's like Oddworld. Oddworld did their shooter, The Stranger.
Did they have a shooter?
The Stranger is a shooter. It's a first-person shooter. And it was very much sort of their take on it. It had a very unusual Oddworld sensibility to it, and it had just really eccentric characters and no traditional guns. It was all like, little critters you found on the ground that you could shoot and had different effects and things like that. So it was very much Oddworld's take on a shooter. And Oddworld has kind of done that with platformers in the past. And I think SteamWorld is in a very similar place, although a little more eclectic in the way that they've approached other genres. I would love to see Oddworld do a deck builder or a RTS, but they seem to be a little less proficient than the SteamWorld devs at this point.
I think they just got to get an entirely new concept. It's like, nobody wants to play as an Oddworld guy. What is that thing? No, get that out of here.
Those games are a little ugly. So play as cool steam-powered robots in a weird steampunk thing.
That sounds much better.
Yeah. So this is called SteamWorld Build. It comes out Friday, December 1st. I've had a really good time with it, playing it. In fact, I kind of want to start with a new geography and go through the whole loop again now that I know what to expect.
Now you know what you're doing.
Yeah. It really holds your hand through that initial playthrough. And I kind of want to do it without that and see if I can, build a civilization from scratch. And I'm curious to sort of see what the layout of the underground mines are. It's interesting that you can go in the settings and you can turn off the randomly generated thing and make it more of a scripted underground area. But I kind of like that it's procedural. It seems a little more like a little bit more like a gamble. Like you're not quite sure what you're going to get sometimes down there, and it does feel a little like I'm stuck sometimes, and I have to find ways to get out of some of the choices that I've made underground. So
that's weird that you can just turn it off. So it means there is just one bespoke SteamWorld Build map buried in the game.
That is my understanding of what that means. Yes. Yep.
That's really weird.
Yeah. Or you can make it random and there, accept all the challenges and occasional problems that maybe come with that.
That I have never heard of that being an option in sort of a roguelike setting before. It was weird.
It's real hard to fail in this. I don't think I said that. Even if all of your workers are unhappy, it really just slows down work. Even if the bugs come and eat all your workers underneath, it just sort of slows down your productivity. And it's pretty easy to kind of spin your resources up again and start sort of making workers happy again and kind of get back on track. I never got, even after sort of making some really bad choices and kind of painting myself into a corner occasionally, never got a game over screen, never failed out of the thing entirely. So it's maybe a little more forgiving than some city builder RTS games would be. And I think, again, that's probably SteamWorld's kind of unique approach on this thing is, if somebody fails, if somebody gets a game over, the likelihood of them never picking up your game again is probably pretty high. So why create scenarios that kicks people out? So this seems to be specifically tuned in a way that kind of keeps you kind of plodding away at it and poking at it until you can find a path to victory, which, again, I like. I think that's super fun.
Yeah, that was definitely my experience with the first one. It was just like, oh, you ran out of oxygen, or I forgot what the concern was in the first one. Well, just start it over, or not start over, but try again. They just put you back in the town.
Yep. So yeah, check out SteamWorld Build. I'm having a good time with it.
Cool.
It's on nearly everything. It is a day one Xbox Game Pass game. I'm playing it on the Switch, but yeah, if you have the Game Pass, it seems like a no-brainer. Definitely check it out.
Seems like a obvious pick for the Steam Deck, but
man, it better be deck verified. If you're going to call your world game SteamWorld, it better work on the Steam Deck.
Like, guys, we got to get on this. One of these games is not working. We can't have that.
People like Steam things.
Yeah. That's my sole criterion for playing a game. It's got to have Steam in the title. It's got to work on the Steam Deck. That's the whole reason I bought that thing. And yeah, that's it.
And last but not least, you and I both checked out the demo for Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince. This is also a new game coming out this week. There's a demo for this on the Switch, presumably on other platforms. No, it's just the Switch. It's only
I think
a Switch
it's just
game.
on the Switch. Yeah. I don't know what the deal is exactly, but that's what they're doing.
I got turned off of this pretty quickly. I really did not have a ton of fun with it, and quickly moved on to some other thing. What did you think of it?
Oh, what turned you off from it?
I thought it wasn't really fun. I think it had a really goofy sensibility. Like some of the writing was real, I don't know, kind of hammy. And I mean, there's an element of hamminess to most Dragon Quest things.
Have you played a Dragon Quest game before?
Yeah. I don't know.
It's like the characters were too silly. All the monsters had weird smiley faces on them.
It was real long-winded. I remember that too. Like I just kept clicking through screen after screen of people explaining things to me, and I was like, "Let me just do the thing." I don't know. Maybe I wasn't in the right mindset for it. So, did you like it? Am I to infer from your defense of it?
I thought it was fine. I mean,
yeah.
I've never played a Dragon Quest Monsters game before, although I know they're very highly regarded. I barely even know what a Dragon Quest Monsters game is. I always just assumed it was like Dragon Quest meets Pokemon, which what a great premise, because you already have the huge bestiary of Dragon Quest monsters to deal with. So it seems like a great fit. And that's more or less what it is from my experience with the demo. Is instead of controlling your Dragon Quest party members, you have just a little team of monsters that you recruit. Mm-hmm. And then they fight each other, and you are like the Pokemon trainer, essentially. You give them commands, and they do their little signature Dragon Quest monster moves, which is fun.
And your Dark Prince is cursed, and he's not allowed to
the Dark Prince
is not allowed to fight others himself, so he has to use his relationship with monsters, his ability to control monsters, to defend himself and to figure out how he's cursed, I guess, right?
Okay, so yeah, I think that was definitely some a part where the game lost me a little bit, because very early on, I forget how they established this, but they're like, "Oh no, monsters are attacking the town or something,"
right?
And don't forget, you're cursed that you can not harm any monsters. I'm like, wait, what? When were they going to explain this to me? And also, what are they talking about?
Oh, and by the way.
Yeah, so I mean, that's just a weird thing that they sort of shove in there. I mean, I feel like they could have handled it a little more smoothly, but whatever. It's just an excuse for you to give you a monster team to control instead.
Mm.
And I don't know, the rest of the gameplay wise, the game seems fine. It's pretty much what I expect from a Pokemon game, where you're just training up monsters and picking out abilities for them to use. And I guess I don't know if you evolve them in this case, but you capture stronger monsters to add to your team as you progress. What I thought was very the most interesting thing about this is that you play as Sorrow, who spoilers, I guess, is the main enemy from Dragon Quest IV. And from what I could gather, this feels like a prequel to Dragon Quest IV, so it's like his origin story, I guess. And sure enough, there's stuff that comes up in the demo where I'm like, oh, I already know where this is going. This is going to be pretty dark. So that was a surprise, and I think it's very interesting how they keep revisiting older Dragon Quest games in this way. Dragon Quest Builders 1 and 2 were just straight up sequels to Dragon Quest 1 and 2. And then now we've got one for Dragon Quest 4, or I guess it's a prequel in this case. So I mean, I guess if you're really into expanding the lore in that way, I'm not a huge fan of when companies come out and they're just like, well, what was this character's backstory like? I don't really need to know that. That's not super important to me.
But so is Sorrow the Dark Prince?
He's the Dark Prince. I forget how they referred to him in that game. But yeah, he's the villain in that game.
I didn't know that.
Or he's one of the villains. That game was complicated. So, I mean, I guess it's a pretty unique premise. It's always interesting to get a different sort of perspective or a different take on a character, and Dragon Quest IV is pretty old at this point, so I can only imagine what sort of story beats they will fit into this version.
Yeah.
But wow, what a weird sort of starting point.
So is this compelling enough for you to want to play more of it, or were you satisfied with your demo experience?
I think I don't know if I'll play the full thing. I don't really play Dragon Quest for the story. And I don't I mean, the gameplay was fine. I don't know if I need to build up my Pokemon team or anything.
I like the monsters. I like the BC area in the Dragon Quest games, and there is definitely something kind of warm and cozy about sort of seeing a Kingslang show up for the first time, or a Medley, or et cetera, Draki. I do like that about the Dragon Quest games, but maybe I don't care for this version of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It feels like it very quickly puts you into sort of this tournament loop where they're like, hey, go to the big arena where they're having the monster battle tournament and then win the tournament, then win the next level of the tournament, and just keep doing that. And I'm not sure if the how much supplemental story there is to that. I am now that I've sort of figured out what the premise is. I have to admit I'm a little curious about how they end up telling this guy's origin story. Because if you play Dragon Quest IV, you already know what happens to this guy. It just hasn't been spelled out on screen over the course of 40 hours or however long this game ends up being. So that is kind of intriguing, but I don't know if it's enough to get me to play the full game.
Do you nobody knows, but do you think the end of Dragon Quest Monsters will dovetail with the beginning of Dragon Quest IV?
I don't know if it'll lead immediately into the beginning, but I think I already know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm kind of shocked. Like I said, as soon as I realized, I was like, oh, okay. So it's going to be very interesting for a Nintendo game. Cool.
Well, that's neat. I mean, it's certainly more work than they had to do for this thing, I think, to sort of go back and retcon some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't know the previous ones. I think some of the previous Dragon Quest monsters also used a Dragon Quest IV character. So I don't know if they all tied together somehow, or maybe I'm just imagining things. No, there were actually. Maybe I'm thinking of a different Dragon Quest spinoff. I'm not sure. But anyway, it's cool that they, first of all, that they made another one of these, because I know people have been waiting for them to do another Dragon Quest Monsters, and that they actually localized it, because that has always been a question for some of these spin-off games. So it's cool that you'll actually be able to play a new Dragon Quest Monsters game in English this week.
Cool. Yeah, I really just need to play Dragon Quest XI, I think.
Yeah, I need to do that too. I was playing this and I realized like it's been like the last proper Dragon Quest game I played was 9. Like I spent a little bit of time with 11, but I didn't get too far into it.
Yeah, same.
And 9 was like almost 15 years ago, so it's been a while.
Was it really that long? Oh my god.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Huh.
What I really want is Dragon Quest Builders 3, because if it follows the pattern with 1 and 2, it's going to be based on Dragon Quest 3, which is great. So that's going to be very exciting. But
is that happening? Do you know if is that confirmed?
There's been no word of that whatsoever.
And 1 and 2 kind of came out in pretty quick succession, so
they did, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what the deal is, because my hope is they've got that Dragon Quest 3 remake coming out. Maybe that'll come out and, it'll be incredible. It'll get everybody into Dragon Quest 3, and then that's the opportunity for them to put out a Dragon Quest 3 sequel, essentially.
There you go.
I could definitely use another Dragon Quest Builders game. God, speaking of people being long-winded, the people in this game, the characters in this game, don't talk for nearly as long as the characters in Dragon Quest Builders 2. That was a relief.
Wow, I didn't play that game either, so.
Oh, it was really good. You should check it out.
Yeah.
The villain from Dragon Quest 2 is just your buddy the entire time. And I'm just like, why is he here? Why are we letting him hang out with us? This is weird.
That's the hook with all these side stories, is you get to be buddies with the person who goes on to, betray you later, apparently.
Apparently, yeah. It's really kind of weird.
Well, cool. Yeah, there was what's the other side one that came out? There was one that came out last year, the Dragon Quest Treasure. Is that what that was called?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it was
I didn't play that one.
Yeah, me either, but that was a direct sequel to 11.
What? Oh, weird.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's a ton of other, Dragon Quest things happening, and I'm struggling to just keep up with the mainline games, I think. So, yeah.
Should finish up Dragon Quest 1. It takes like an hour.
Yeah. I never got to the end of that. Should do that.
What I read this week is that Dragon Quest 2 was the first JRPG with a party.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because, in Dragon Quest 1, you were just the one guy.
You were just a lone warrior.
Yeah, so, and then apparently, some Western RPGs had already done this, but Dragon Quest 2 was breaking new ground, at least in that sense.
Interesting.
So it's weird to think that it was just oh, you could have more than one person on your team? Who knew? Who would have thought?
It's groundbreaking technology.
Yeah.
We should wrap this up. If you'd like to join our party, you can join us on Discord. You can hang out with us and chat about video games. You can lob questions at us for our Drunktacular year-end wrap-up show. You can get a link to that at VGHangover.com. Which is a place where you can get all kinds of other video game hangover stuff. In addition to Twitter, we're twitter.com/VGHangover. And yeah, show notes, links, etc., at VGHangover.com. We would love for you to subscribe, rate, and review us on your podcasting app of choice. We're on all of them. So do the thing there and maybe help us out by telling your friends about the show.
Yeah. Tell them to send in their questions. They don't have much time left.
Yeah, the clock is ticking.
See how many of those questions are who is this? What is this phone number? Who's going to pick up? No. Not sure what's going on.
What am I doing right now?
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to give thanks again to Fear of Dark for our intro and outro music this week. If you'd like to hear more of his work, you can go to fearofdark.bandcamp.com and just buy his whole discography. That would be terrific.
Nice. Well, we'll be back next week. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks so much for listening to Video Game Hangover. Bye.
Good night.
See ya.